Hi everyone, welcome to Cracking the Code presented by ONFLIT. It's our 8th episode today. So Cracking the Code Live, CTC Live is our weekly series where we connect with masters of digital era, people who not only pursued unconventional careers but became the champions, the pioneers of the unconventional careers, people who master this domain today of the digital content space. So on CTC Live, we connect you with YouTubers, stand-up comics, digital content creators, solopreneurs, artists, anchors, chefs, stylists, and people like that, where they not only come and share their success story, but also talk about how did they achieve it and how can you do it too. So today, as I said, it's a eighth episode, and I'm super excited today to host Gursimran Khamba. I would like to repeat this once again. If you are not living under a rock, you would for sure know who Gursimran Khamba is. But for all those boomers who might not know who Gursimran Khamba is, he is the founder of AIB, the very famous All India Bakchod. He is a scriptwriter. He currently runs a comedy consultancy business called Light at 27. But not just that. I am his big fan. I have been following AIB right from the initial days and also the days of his stand-up comic career. He is one of the biggest stand-up comics in India today. He is one of the pioneers of comedy business, and it's my honor and a privilege to host the very funny Gursimran Khamba. Hi Khamba, good evening to Cracking the Code. Welcome to Cracking
हाय
the Code.
थैंक यू
And
बहुत
good evening.
बहुत बहुत बढ़ा चढ़ा दिया आपने मुझे एडजेक्टिव्स बड़े सही लगते हैं बिगेस्ट कॉमेडियन आई थिंक इसका ना जैसे एक ना 6-7 साल पहले एक टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया ने लिस्ट निकाली थी जब कॉमेडी बिजनेस बहुत छोटा होता था उसमें लिखा
अच्छा
हुआ था टॉप 10 कॉमेडियंस ऑफ इंडिया तब 15 कॉमेडियन होते थे गिन के तो वो
अच्छा
जिसका भी नाम आया ना वो टॉप 10 वाली लिस्ट पे उसने 10 साल चलाया वो कि वन ऑफ इंडिया
अच्छा
टॉप 10 कॉमेडियंस तो
हाँ
मुझे ये बिगेस्ट कॉमेडियन ये मेरे को बड़ा मजा आता है क्योंकि I want to know how we determine this. Is it comedian with the biggest paycheck? Is it comedian with biggest online following? बहुत मजा आता है मुझे. But so thank you. आपने सही चढ़ा दिया मुझे मजा आया.
नहीं नहीं बट आप हो I've been a fan and a follower from a long time and rather you'll be surprised, so I'll tell you, in fact my first ever interaction with you, we I think got a
Oh,
chance to interact. This was 2012 or 11 when you came to first ever chat changing tomorrow Jaipur.
oh हाँ, अच्छा था वो. I think वो वीडियो
हाँ
अभी भी है online.
वीडियो का मुझे नहीं पता बट यू हैड अ एक्ट देयर एंड द थिंग वाज दैट पीपल डिडंट नो बैक देन बिकॉज़ कॉमेडी डिड नॉट बिकम अ सीरियस लाइक अ बिजनेस
हाँ,
लोगों को लगता था कि अच्छा कुछ लाफ्टर चैलेंज जैसा कुछ होता है एंड योर
हाँ, हाँ, हाँ.
जोक्स एंड द सटायर एंड योर ट्विटर प्रेजेंस एंड दैट नेम खंबा सो एवरीबॉडी वाज लाइक अरे ये क्या हो रहा है इट वाज अ वेरी डिफरेंट थिंग एंड दैट्स अ वेरी स्ट्रांग
हाँ.
रिकॉल सो आई थिंक आई
तब वो
एम नॉट अभी हाँ
अच्छा टाइम था वो तब वो ट्विटर भी बड़ा इनोसेंट डेज थे ट्विटर के 2012 में और हाँ लाइक यू मेंशन करेक्टली एक्चुअली कॉमेडी एज अ करियर वाज अ वेरी वेरी नेसेंट वन मतलब हम गिन के
हम्म
20 लोग होते थे तब तो
हम्म
तब सप्लाई डिमांड का सिचुएशन बिल्कुल अलग होता था नाउ ऑफ कोर्स इट्स अ
हम्म
फुल ब्लोन इंडस्ट्री सो इट्स अ टोटली डिफरेंट
अभी
सिचुएशन
कितने लोग
एंटायरली
हो गए होंगे अभी कितने लोग हो गए
अभी
हैं
अभी अभी तो पत्थर
100
फेंको कॉमेडियन मिल रहे हैं
अच्छा ऐसा क्या
नहीं नहीं हाँ हाँ अब तो बहुत है it's a really good thing because the ecosystem is very strong now. I think it's no,
ओके
not 100, definitely more. A
ओके
good 300-400 comics, which is very good. Like every year, I feel every year we should be adding 100. The more comics, the more comedy in the country. I think the
ओके
better. तो
ओके
अच्छा ही है सबके लिए.
हम इनिशियली अलग टैंजेंट पे चले गए दोनों बट डू यू थिंक इट्स रियली अ ग्रेट थिंग इज इट लाइक द वे इकोसिस्टम इज बिल्डिंग या फिर ये एक अभी फैड चल रहा है हाउ डू यू सी बिकॉज वो था ना कि पहले गिटार था फिर फोटोग्राफी थी फिर सबको एंटरप्रेन्योर बनना था और अब सब स्टैंड अप कॉमेडी कर रहे हैं तो व्हाट्स योर पर्सपेक्टिव
नहीं,
ऑन दैट
so I think there are two types. Okay, the comedy business also has two types of people. One is people who just want to be comedians, and there are some like that. There are others who, rightly so, see it as a stepping stone into being somebody else. Like जब हम start किए
ओके
थे हम सिर्फ stand up करते थे तो live comedians होते थे. I mean I think live comics is a better word.
हम्म
Whereas now I think as you know already the opportunity with your social media platforms, the ability to be a funny creator, the
हम्म
ability to be a creator in general is a totally different business stream. So there are some people who are funny people who are creators but are not comedians. There are
हम्म
comedians who are also creators, and then there are just comedians. who are
Oh.
not like I feel like I'm slightly in my current avatar. I feel like I'm more a live comedian. I'm not a creator because you won't see me making Instagram reels and doing characters and stuff like that. So the good
Right.
thing is that the ecosystem has really expanded, and there is
Hmm.
space for everyone as
Hmm.
a creator, as a creative person,
Hmm.
and there's space for everyone as a consumer to be
Hmm.
able to watch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hmm. So, is this the reason why don't you make vlogs? मैं
मैं
थोड़ा
इसलिए नहीं
बदनाम हूँ. मैं थोड़ा बदनाम हूँ मेरे स्पीकर्स को स्टॉक करने के लिए, और मेरे जो भी स्पीकर आने वाले होते हैं, मेरे पूरे एक हफ्ता उनको स्टॉक करते जाता है. सो आई हर्ड यू वर सेइंग कि व्हाई डोंट यू मेक व्लॉग्स, एंड क्या क्या बनाए. तो इज दिस द रीजन व्हाई डोंट मेक
नहीं मैंने
व्लॉग्स?
ये I was doing a podcast with a friend, close friend of mine, good friend
हाँ
of mine, close नहीं,
हाँ
Saurabh,
हाँ.
he was
आई वॉच
asking me,
दैट
he said,
नाइट,
why aren't you
दैट्स व्हाई आई एम
making
आस्किंग
vlogs?
दिस.
हाँ, नहीं तो मैंने उसे वही बताया था. सच बात है, जब मैं ट्रैवल कर रहा था शोज के लिए तब मजा भी आता था,
हाँ.
because you're going to different cities, it's fun.
Hmm.
But right now I'm mostly at home and I'm mostly writing. And
Hmm.
so writing is a very fundamentally boring process. It's a very
Okay.
get up, light on करो, computer on करो, सोचो 12 घंटा, उसमें कुछ interesting नहीं है, उसमें कुछ
Hmm.
value नहीं है, इसलिए मैं वो रील वील भी नहीं बना रहा होता. It's the same problem.
Okay. Okay. So let's. There are a couple of pointers we should get into, but let's begin from where we kicked off or started. I would have spoken about the journey part first, but उसको भी बाद में बात करते हैं, because बहुत अच्छा आपने point बोला है that comedy business has matured a lot and evolved a lot, right? So let
course.
us talk about ये जो you say that you are a screen writer. तो screen writer क्या होता है? तो दो तीन मिक्स सवाल है, and answer them the way you feel like. सो स्क्रीन राइटर
Sure.
क्या होता है? व्हाट्स अ स्क्रीन राइटर? स्क्रीन राइटर होने का क्या आपके कॉमिक होने पे कोई फर्क पड़ता है? सेकंड, एंड देन थर्ड, हाउ डू यू सी दिस बिजनेस हैज इवॉल्व्ड ओवर टाइम एंड व्हाट्स द फ्यूचर लाइक?
Okay. So screenwriters, for those in the audience who don't know, is essentially people who write scripts, screenplays, for movies, web series, TV shows, stuff like that. राइट इसमें आप फिक्शन भी कर सकते हो, जो आपको ड्रामाज, आपके सीक्रेट गेम्स और पाताल लोक एटसेट्रा. इसमें नॉन फिक्शन भी होता है, जैसे स्केच शोज, कपिल शर्मा एटसेट्रा. दैट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ स्क्रीन राइटिंग. नाउ स्क्रीन राइटर यूजुअली बोलते नहीं है लोग, यूजुअली नॉमेनक्लेचर इज यूजुअली राइटर बनना है. अब वो इंडिया में यूजुअली वो एंटरटेनमेंट इंडस्ट्री में राइटर बनना बोलते हैं, बट इवन दो द वर्ड राइटर हैज अ टोटली डिफरेंट कॉम्बिनेशन. तो एज अ बिजनेस, राइटर बनना इज इन अ वेरी वियर्ड वे. मतलब ऑब्वियसली वो 90s वाला टाइम तो गया, जब एक्टर सेट पे आता था और जो मन करता था बोल जाते थे, और एक बच्चा बिठाया होता था और वो साइड पे ही लिख देता था. वो दिन गए. अब वो सच में था एट वन पॉइंट. द स्क्रिप्ट वाज नॉट गिवन दैट मच वैल्यू, राइट? तभी हमारी पुरानी पिक्चरें मोस्टली बेकार ही हैं. मतलब अच्छी, ऑब्वियसली अच्छी हैं, बट दैट ट्रोप इज ट्रू इन द सेंस it wasn't say for example as streamlined or as formalized. Now ab kya hua hai, with the fact that you have so many content platforms, with your OTT platforms coming in, with the Hindi film industry, or most film industries actually, down south especially, a lot of it is formalized, a lot of it is institutionalized, right? So the ability to be a screenwriter now, you genuinely can be a legit screenwriter who works literally very professionally, project to project. As a career option, honestly, it's also something that I knew I always wanted to do. तो छोटे होते तो वैसे कोई बताता नहीं है, बिकॉज मैं भी जब दिल्ली लुधियाना में जब मैं स्कूल गया था, तो इट्स नॉट अ प्रोफेशन दैट एनीबडी टॉक्स अबाउट, राइट? एनीवे क्रिएटिव आर्ट्स तो प्रोफेशन बोला ही नहीं जाता है. इवन दो टेक्निकली स्पीकिंग स्क्रीन राइटिंग तो कॉमेडी से भी पुराना है. फिल्में तो हमारा देश कब से बना रहा है, बट इट्स नेवर अ प्रोफेशन दैट इज ब्रॉट अबाउट. स्कूल्स भी ज्यादा नहीं है, एक दो को छोड़ के, मतलब अब ज्यादा हो गए हैं, बट बैक इन द डे देयर वर वेरी फ्यू अपॉर्चुनिटीज इफ यू वांटेड टू लर्न. तो एज अ प्रोफेशन आपको अगर स्क्रीन राइटर बनना है, नाउ आई थिंक द अपॉर्चुनिटीज अ लॉट मोर. यू कैन गेट प्रोफेशनली ट्रेन्ड both in India and outside. For me, the possibility only opened up where I genuinely realized that I wanted to do this almost like full time about 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago. क्योंकि होता क्या था कि जब हम पहले जब हम करते थे एज अ कॉमेडियन, हमने स्टार्ट किया, ठीक है, तो तब हम स्केचेस लिखते थे, छोटे छोटे 5 मिनट 10 मिनट. उसमें हमारे थोड़े, हमें लगा कि यार पहले वो हम लाइव परफॉर्म करते थे, फिर हमें लगा कि नहीं, इसको ना लाइव नहीं, अब डिजिटली यूज करते हैं. जब यूट्यूब स्टार्ट हुआ था बिफोर 4G, जब हम बैक इन द डे प्री जियो एरा जब हम
Right.
स्केचेस बनाते होते थे, तब हमने सोचा कि ओके इन इसको, अब जो अमेरिकन ट्रेडिशन है स्केच कॉमेडी का, यूएस में इतने आपके शोज हैं पुराने, सैटरडे नाइट लाइव हो
Right.
गया, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा, हमने सबने देखा, हमने कहा उस तरह को कुछ करने की कोशिश करते हैं, इंडिया में कोशिश करते हैं।
Hmm.
तब जब हमने किया तो वही जो हम लाइव परफॉर्म करते थे उसको हमने स्क्रीन पे डालने की कोशिश की। तब हमें पता चला कि जो हम लाइव करते हैं और स्क्रीन पे जो करते हैं उसमें कितना फर्क है, क्योंकि जो
Hmm.
चीजें आप लाइव करते हो दे डोंट डायरेक्टली ट्रांसलेट ऑन स्क्रीन, दैट्स अ
Right.
टोटली डिफरेंट डिसिप्लिन। तो 3-4 साल वो करा, वो उस टाइप के स्केचेस लिखे, वो समझ आई, पर वो 10 मिनट के होते थे, 15 मिनट के होते थे, 20 मिनट के होते थे, वो फिल्म नहीं होती थी। वो
Hmm.
आया, आपने देखा, आपने फोन पे देखा, आप हंसे और आप निकल गए। Then, of course, I started writing my first show, which is going to be released soon on Amazon.
Hmm.
That's like a blown 9 episodes, half an
Oh.
hour each, like a proper series. So
Okay.
when I started working on that, I essentially had to teach myself, and I sucked at it in the beginning, but I have to give credit to about 3 people here. Ek Satyanshu Singh, who's also the director of Chintu Ka Birthday, who used to run AIB First Draft,
Right.
and 2 of my co-writers, Gaurav Mishra and Dhruv Narang. Dhruv wrote Sacred Games season 2, for example. He wrote some of the
Okay.
episodes. So these 3 are the main colleagues who I spent the most amount of time working. इनसे जो मैंने सीखा है, obviously, I also taught them some stuff. But I give them a lot of credit because as a team we worked a lot and we learned a lot, and then I suddenly realized that this is a new thing
Hmm.
that I finally sort of unlocked that part of my brain.
Hmm.
Now, coming to your original question, how does being a comedian connect to being a screenwriter? It's a totally different discipline
Right.
entirely. Uh,
Okay.
if I want to be a live comedian का मेन काम होता है लेजी होना, क्योंकि हम लेजी होने का काम करते थे कि सुबह आप 8, क्योंकि सुबह फ्लाइट ली, किसी शहर में गए, जोक्स आपने, ऑब्वियसली जोक्स लिखने में भी टाइम लगता है, बट
हाँ.
वंस यू राइट इट टुगेदर, once you
Hmm.
get that thing going, then it's about performing and getting better at performing,
Right.
adding new tricks, adding new material. But it's a different type of setup. Mentally, you are using a different muscle because you are going on stage, you are interacting with the audience. तुम जो बोल रहे हो immediately response आ रहा है. It's a very
Hmm.
different muscle. Screenwriting is a totally different beast. It
Oh.
takes a lot more time. It's a lot more time. आपको अगर 9 एपिसोड लिखना है, आपको लगता है 6-8 महीना नॉन
Hmm.
स्टॉप। स्टैंड अप का भी 1 घंटा लिखने में लगता है उतना, उससे भी ज्यादा ही लगता है इनफैक्ट, बट द मसल्स दैट यू आर यूजिंग आर टोटली डिफरेंट, राइट? बिकॉज व्हेन यू आर डूइंग स्टैंड अप यू आर बीइंग योरसेल्फ,
Right.
somewhere you are your own person, you are playing an exaggerated version of yourself on stage.
Hmm. Hmm.
Here you are creating an entire new universe, you are
Hmm.
creating entirely new characters, you are
Hmm.
making them speak different ways, you are making them interact and trying to logically follow a story. You are inhabiting a new universe,
Right.
you are not yourself, so it's a very different muscle.
Hmm.
So I feel जो मैंने अपना पहला Amazon शो लिखा था उसमें इतना सीखने को मिला, and suddenly this one more part of my brain I felt unlocked कि यार,
Hmm.
okay, this also is a possibility. So that's why most of my time now, and I really enjoy it a lot more, because, and that's a very individual choice, but that's essentially what I do now along with comedy. मेरे को ना दोनों चीजें बहुत काम आती हैं, because जो आपकी स्क्रीन राइटिंग वाली टेंशन होती है वो आप कॉमेडी में निकाल देते हो, और
Okay.
जो आप ये वाला कॉमेडी वाला मसल यूज करते हो वो कभी कभी उसमें काम आ जाता है,
Hmm.
क्योंकि आप उसमें जो सीख रहे हो वो काम है। सॉरी, मैंने बहुत लंबा आंसर
Right.
दिया है,
No, no, but it's a good
बट दैट्स
insight.
द डिफरेंस।
No, it's a really good insight. If I would have time, I would have extended really really long. But yeah, feel free. So, but so another tangent I want to kind of take this entire discussion onto is that, but you as you said, you were not, or are you from a fine arts or literature background? You're not from that background, right? Plus, you do not have
I
any.
studied, no, I studied journalism,
Mhm.
which, haha, I feel bad for the kids who are studying that now, given the state of the Indian media. But मैं बीए मैंने अपना जर्नलिज्म में किया था, मास्टर्स मैंने उसमें किया था कल्चर स्टडीज और
हाँ.
फिल्म
So
मेकिंग।
that's what I'm saying. So
तो
जब आपका बैकग्राउंड हिस्ट्री भी पढ़ा, तो you are not someone जिसका फिल्म इंक्लिनेशन या राइटिंग इंक्लिनेशन या मे बी लेट अस से थिएटर बैकग्राउंड, इस तरह कुछ बैकग्राउंड है. So how come you
नहीं,
all of a sudden went into the comedy and all into this thing, considering again you're from Delhi and not from Mumbai, right? So वो क्या जर्नी था? Let's talk about that.
सर जब स्टैंड अप स्टार्ट किया ना, सॉरी मैं ना ये पिस्ता खा रहा हूँ, मैं बहुत भूख लगी है,
या
3
प्लीज,
घंटे से खाया
अरे नहीं, प्लीज गो
नहीं।
अहेड, फील फ्री.
तो जब स्टैंड अप स्टार्ट हुआ था, जब मैंने स्टार्ट किया था, तब तो लाइक यू सेड करेक्टली इंडस्ट्री थी नहीं. तो दिल्ली में इन 2000 आई थिंक 9 की बात है. There's a really good friend of mine who's also a comedian, Rajneesh Kapoor नाम है उसका. He's based out of Delhi. He had started organizing these open mics. तो उन्होंने कहा कि यार लोग, तब मैं थोड़ा ना फ्रीलांस राइटिंग वगैरह करता था मैगजीन्स वगैरह के लिए. तो उसने कहा कि यार कौन फनी लोग हैं जिनको मैं जानता हूँ. उसने तब फेसबुक तो बहुत लोग यूज करते थे, तो तब उसने फेसबुक पे लोगों ने टैग करने लग गया. तो कहता कोई भी जो फनी है ना आ जाओ इस रेस्टोरेंट में. उसने बुकिंग करी हुई थी और यहाँ पे आके 3-3 4-4 मिनट जोक सुनाना और ये हम कंपटीशन करेंगे. और टॉप प्राइस था 2,000 रुपए. तो मैं भी चला गया और पहली बारी जब किया तो एक दो जोक्स तब हमने ट्विटर वगैरह पे ट्राई किए हुए थे, मतलब वन लाइनर्स. तो वो ट्विटर के इनोसेंट दिनों में तो वो ही मैंने जाके बस बोल दिए. बहुत खराब डिलीवरी, मतलब इतना कुछ अच्छा था नहीं, बट हो गया. मतलब दैट वाज अ रियली फन एक्सपीरियंस बिकॉज़ दैट्स द फर्स्ट टाइम यू सॉर्ट ऑफ डिड समथिंग लाइव and आपको immediately response आया. So I am not
Absolutely.
from theater at all. Most stand-up comics aren't exactly. I think if you
Okay.
are from that background, if you want to be an actor, I think it definitely helps because
Yeah.
you are so much better because you can be a lot more. You can play characters, do 100 things. I wasn't like that, but for me also my persona and my style wasn't like that. Just type का stand-up मैं करता हूँ is not very physical. It's not very loud, all jumping all over the place. It's very stand and deliver kind of a format. So I'm not that from that, and I don't think होना भी चाहिए. So for if young people who are listening to this, in fact, बहुत लोग पूछते भी हैं, तो I don't think कि just because तुमने history पढ़ा है, तो तुम creative में कैसे आ गए? In fact, it's the other way around. I feel it's better that you have studied or been in disciplines which are not directly connected, because I feel you have a lot more richer understanding of life. अब जैसे अरे यार उसका एग्जांपल ले लो, अपना टीवीएफ की टीम का एग्जांपल ले लो, बिस्सो गुलानी, इतने सबने
Yes.
शोज लिखे हैं तो सब आईआईटी से ना. तो पढ़ा फाइन आर्ट्स तो नहीं किया है ना, बट वो शो लिख पाए कॉलेज यूनिवर्स में सेट क्योंकि उन्होंने खुद वो जिया है.
सही
They
बात
have
है.
lived that experience. They know what is that dynamic. Somebody like me, I can never write that because I have not lived that life. But the life I have lived, the college I have gone to, the cities I have grown up in, I can tell those stories.
Right.
मैं वो बता सकता हूँ. तो ये मिसनोमर है थोड़ा कि फाइन आर्ट्स या क्रिएटिव, अगर आपने आर्ट्स लिया है तो ही आप अच्छा क्रिएटिव कर पाओगे. आई थिंक बहुत बड़ा मिसनोमर है. आई फील बेटर है अगर आपने कुछ और किया, क्योंकि आपका पर्सपेक्टिव और वर्ल्ड व्यू बेटर होता है.
On a lighter note, is this the reason why TVF content and AIB content, because both of you were the pioneers of this universe technically, was so different that AIB's was little raw, wherein and more on the face, wherein TVF was more family and that kind of a thing? Was it because of the background of the founders?
नहीं, ये मुझे बहुत ये क्वेश्चन बड़ा फाइन लगता है, क्योंकि जब भी कोई बोलता है ना हमको कंटेंट बड़ा रॉ था, दैट्स कोड फॉर सेइंग अरे आप तो ज्यादा गाली देते थे, टीवीएफ वाले गाली नहीं देते थे. बेसिकली इसका इम्प्लीकेशन ये होता था. बट नहीं, आई फील इट्स टोटली डिफरेंट वर्ल्ड व्यूज. वी वर वेरी हेवीली इनटू स्केच एंड वी वर लाइव कॉमेडियंस फर्स्ट. नो वन इन द टीवीएफ टीम वाज अ लाइव कॉमेडियन.
Right.
दे वर स्क्रीन राइटर्स. देवर स्क्रीन राइटर्स. उन्होंने स्टेज शोज वगैरह कुछ 3-4 साल बाद स्टार्ट किए. वो स्टेज तो करते नहीं थे. स्केच हमारा लाइवलीहुड नहीं था. हमारा लाइवलीहुड स्टेज था. हम स्टेज को यूट्यूब पे लेके गए. वो शुरू से यूट्यूब पे ही हैं. तो टोटली डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ अप्रोचिंग. एंड आई जेन्युइनली फील, आई मीन वी वरंट, एक पता नहीं किसने बोला था, एक बड़ी फनी चीज बोली थी, मुझे सडनली याद आया कि बीच में ना, अब जैसे यू एज व्हेन वी वर इन द मिडल ऑफ इट, तो nobody is sitting and thinking कि यार I mean थोड़ा होता था, but nobody is sitting and thinking कि उन्होंने ये कर दिया तो हम ये करते हैं. It was very we want to do this तो ये करते हैं, ठीक है. It was more focused on what you want to do.
Right.
पर वो जनता, इंडियन जनता आपको पता ही है, तो इंडियन जनता को दो मिल गए तो भेड़ दो, है ना, कि ये तो ये करते हैं, वो ये करते हैं. वो उन्होंने डाल दिया उसमें. Nobody asked for that comparison. It's a very self-made comparison because तब होते ही दो लोग थे. But the worldview and the point of view was very different. because the stories they can tell we can't tell, the stories we can tell they can't tell. It's a very, और ये एक किसी ने बोला था कि and honestly I also feel like we sort of more influenced by English stand-up because we were stage comics, and stand-up is an inherently English art form.
Yeah.
So
नहीं तो मेरा
we were working with that sensibility.
So मेरा भी सवाल था ना, see again as I said, forget what people think, right? मेरा सवाल था वो rawness या गाली के point of view से नहीं था. What I wanted to understand from you was that does experience and life experience also matters? Because I remember TVF tried to create honest series kind of a thing that AIB was doing, and man, your honest series, whether it is honest placements, honest marriage, honest Diwali, like they were really mind blowing. I think the level of quality in terms of that content, forget गाली था या उसमें cringe word था, जो quality था वो कोई और achieve ही नहीं कर पाया. Wherein जो TVF ने बैचलर्स बनाया, ट्रिपलिंग बनाया, वो उनका पीक था. So you know everybody was playing on their best. Yeah.
100%, because I feel like I said पहले कि different worldview, different environment. Like we always thought of stuff from a stand-up perspective, from a live stage perspective, which we can translate on screen, because we were not. I mean, तन्मय ने लिखे थे टीवी shows वगैरह, हमने भी कुछ टीवी का किया था, but we were not full-blown screenwriters.
Right.
हमने start नहीं किया था. We were writing sketch in a totally different way. And then the other thing also is, I think there on the Indian internet back in the day also, there used to be always this debate of कि how much do you dumb it down, how much do you play to your audience. तो जो मैं बता रहा था ना, पता नहीं किसने बोली थी, एक बंदे ने बोला था, उसने कहा था कि AIB वाले TVF बनना चाहते हैं, TVF वाले AIB बनना चाहते हैं, because they were trying to Englishify their content a little bit, and we were trying to Hindify our content a little bit. Right. तो मेरे को बहुत हंसी आई थी, किसी ने बोला था जब. But like you said, you can only write what you know, or you can only I mean, obviously you can learn and sort of write what you don't know either, but the inherent approach that you have towards life and how that will translate into content will only be basis your growing up things, right? मेरे को, मैं पंजाब में पला बड़ा हूं, तो मुझे पता है, मेरे को वो I can tell those stories more authentically.
Right.
मैं I can't tell a story set in Chennai of authentic experience of somebody who's born and brought up there, right? Obviously I can't. तो जो तुम्हारा world view है, तुम वही बताओगे. And even if I try, I will not do as good a job as somebody perhaps from there. At least in the first go, at least in the beginning of my career. Maybe once 10 years later, when my skills are much more advanced and 100 things I can do better, then maybe I can potentially try and attempt that. अभी तो मैं attempt ही नहीं करूँगा.
So you used a very important word, skills. So because I have a separate section of skills and I want to pick it up right now. Other than, and of course you've spoken enough on experiences, right? So other than the personal experience that you have, what all other skills you need to be into the screenwriting and comedy business? Maybe you can pick them up one by one, because technically I forgot to announce in the beginning, you're the first comic on the series now. You're the first one, so आपका थोड़ा ज़्यादा दिमाग खाएंगे हम लोग. You're the first one to tell people कि comedy business में आते कैसे हैं. Yeah, go ahead.
नहीं, I think अब तो बहुत democratize हो गया है. The advantages, and I mean, ये 100 लोग बोल चुके हैं, मेरे को फिर से बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है. With the advent of social media, it's like a very democratic thing, right? So अगर तुम्हें कल content creator बनना है, तो literally उसमें I don't know what skill, for example, you need per se. You just need to be funny. Like hundreds of content creators exist right now, and it's really your worldview, your sense of humor. You know, अब 50 लोग बना चुके हैं types of Delhi boys, types of this thing. Everybody's making it, but they're making it differently. They're making it from their point of view. So content creation, I still think, is slightly different in the sense the building blocks always have to be what is your opinion, what do you want to create, what that you want to put out in the world. And then of course there are some technical elements of this, which are totally different, which is, you know, if you have to be, you know, if you're a good editor, this is of course if you can't hire someone, you have to be a good editor, have to get somebody who's good at graphics, have to sort of package it well. वो भी जरूरत नहीं है, honestly. I mean, भुवन का एग्जाम्पल देख लो. अब भुवन इज द मोस्ट रॉ क्रिएटर ऑन द प्लेनेट. ना उसने कोई एडिटर लिया है, ना उसने कोई कुछ किया, वो खुद ही करता है सब कुछ. So the basic, so before going into the technical stuff also, I think the main thing you need to do is your point of view, which is unique, which you feel is unique, which nobody else is putting out there. Persistence. कितने examples हैं हमारे पास, whether it's, I mean, Be Unique, like, you know, he's such a good channel.
Right.
He's been some of the most persistent guys who
Right.
really are putting content out there. So, and with time, obviously, they've grown and built more stuff. So the main thing for me, I think, outside of the technical stuff, is your unique point of view and persistence to be
Okay.
able to create. I think those are the two most important things.
Okay. Okay.
For screenwriters, it's a different skill set. Again, I'm not going to go into the technical aspects of how do you format screenplays and कौन सा software use
Yeah.
करो, वो जाना है तो वो भी कर सकते हैं. But the main thing needs to be the ability to understand, at least if I were to start, at least to understand story structure and a 3-act structure, right? The advantage is that screenplays को लेके इतनी सारी books हैं, इतना सारा resource material available है YouTube पे free, right? इतने सारे, just by watching movies, just by doing 100 things, you know, you can become a better screenwriter. So
Absolutely.
if I were to say what skills you need, I think it's similar to being a content creator. You need to have a story that you want to tell authentically. You need to have patience and persistence to tell that story. जो स्किल है वो आपके पास सारे रिसोर्सेज हैं दुनिया के, यूट्यूब पे, बुक्स के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से वो सब मिल जाएगा आपको. बट द मेन थिंग इज द wanting to tell a story and being able to translate it through persistence and through constantly working at it.
Okay.
क्योंकि एक चीज और फर्क है जो कंटेंट क्रिएशन और स्क्रीन राइटिंग में, इज लाइक कंटेंट क्रिएशन ऑलमोस्ट लाइक लाइव स्टैंड अप, राइट? आपको इमीडिएट फीडबैक है. आपने आज वीडियो बनाया, रात तक पता चल जाएगा आपको. आपने कल वीडियो बनाया, रात तक पता चलेगा. वीडियो फटा, फेमस, ये इनफैक्ट ये अलग पॉइंट है, बट आज की डेट में लोग कंटेंट क्रिएटर बाद में बनना चाहते हैं, फेमस पहले होना चाहते हैं. तो
सही बात
है ना, तो वो प्रोसेस रिवर्स हो गया. यू नीड टू बी इन लव विद द प्रोसेस. ये मैं बार बार बोलता हूँ सबको, यू नीड टू बी इन लव विद द प्रोसेस ऑफ क्रिएशन. इफ यू लव द प्रोसेस ऑफ क्रिएशन, 1 साल नहीं लगा, 2 साल नहीं लगा, 3 साल नहीं लगा, कभी ना कभी इट विल हैपन फॉर यू. स्क्रीन राइटिंग अगेन टोटली डिफरेंट सिचुएशन है. स्क्रीन राइटिंग में 6 महीने लग गए आपको स्क्रिप्ट लिखने में, फिर आप पिच करोगे, फिर आप एक्टर लगाओगे, फिर आप डायरेक्टर जोड़ोगे, फिर 3 महीने में शूट करोगे, फिर एडिट होगी. सिंस द डे यू स्टार्ट राइटिंग इट टिल द टाइम यू सी इट ऑन स्क्रीन 2-3 साल लग जाता है, जो हम हर एक फ्राइडे में 1 घंटे में ट्रेलर देख के बोल देते हैं कि यार मजा नहीं आया, है ना? तो है ना, अब उसके पीछे 3 साल की उसके पीछे 3 साल की 300 लोगों की मेहनत है, जो 3 सेकंड में डिसमिस कर देते हैं. तो स्क्रीन राइटर बनना है तो वो मसल बिल्कुल अलग है कि यू नीड टू नो, यू नीड टू लव द स्टोरी इनफ टू बी विद इट फॉर 3 years. वो कंटेंट क्रिएटर में नहीं है. कंटेंट क्रिएटर, आपने सुबह वीडियो निकाला, मजा नहीं आया, डिलीट कर दे, कुछ नहीं होता, कल एक और करते हैं, अगले हफ्ते और करते हैं. द क्रिएशन एंड द रिवॉर्ड इज क्विक.
राइट.
स्क्रीन राइटिंग, क्रिएशन एंड रिवॉर्ड आर नोवेयर क्लोज. पैसा भी बहुत कम है स्क्रीन राइटिंग में. मैं लोगों के लिए बोल दूं जो सोच रहे हैं कि इफ दे कैन मेक अ लिविंग, यू नीड टू नो दैट कंटेंट क्रिएशन और इन्फ्लुएंसर बनने में बहुत पैसा है. तो आज की डेट में सबको इन्फ्लुएंसर बनना है, और क्योंकि है बनना भी चाहिए, क्योंकि पैसा बहुत है,
पैसा है, सही बात है.
Screenwriters, to be a good screenwriter, you not beyond the point, you are not going to be some crazy gazillionaire. You are not going to have like a shit ton of money unless you turn that into becoming a director. Then you can still you can still make a lot more money. But you need to also be aware of that कि आपका एक screenwriter का lifestyle एक level तक का होता है. अगर आपको उससे ज्यादा चाहिए, maybe then figure something else out or create a bigger ecosystem or do something else. So those are the essential differences to on the surface level.
इस पूरे इक्वेशन में टैलेंट को कैसे एनालाइज करते हो आप? My point is, so for example, you spoke about persistence, experience, life experience, how critical and important the talent is. And let us say somebody watching is not talented. कोई है बच्चा जो बोलता है मैं talented नहीं हूँ, और but I still want to be, I'm passionate to be a comic, I want to be a screenwriter, script writer. अब क्या करे वो अगर talented नहीं है तो? Because skill तो आ जाएगी but talent नहीं, तो कितना important है इस पूरी equation में talent का रोल?
नहीं, बहुत ज्यादा है, पर I think persistence से ज्यादा नहीं है.
Okay.
I think if I feel, I might be wrong. See, even if you're the worst इफ यू हैव एब्सोल्युटली जीरो टैलेंट, आपने वाहियात वीडियो बनाया, पर आप लोगों से फीडबैक ले लेके मेहनत कर करके आप खुद समझ जाओगे कि ये जम रहा है, ये नहीं जम रहा है, लोगों को ये पसंद आ रहा है, ये पसंद नहीं आ रहा है, मेरी ये स्ट्रेंथ है, मेरी ये स्ट्रेंथ नहीं है. There are a lot of comedians who are not naturally funny people. Right?
Right.
There's a lot of comics you will meet who are not कि हर सेकंड में तुम्हारे को जोक पे जोक दे रहा है. नहीं, because comedian बनने के लिए भी there is a discipline. You need to be able to analyze things in an interesting way. You need to be able to find
Absolutely.
the observation which other people cannot find. Right? You need to be able to see what everybody else is living the same life, but only you are being able to find that pattern, or you are being able to find that nuance. So beyond the point, I feel you can still be taught, you can still teach yourself to be funny or funnier. There are, I won't name names, but there's a bunch of comics who I am so impressed with, who are not like the sharpest from a फटाफट आपको जवाब दे देंगे, but pure मेहनत, pure persistence, सीख के कर करके स्टेज पे जा जाके बॉम्ब हो के बेइज्जती करा के अलग अलग ऑडियंस के सामने सीख जाता है आदमी.
अच्छा.
तो persistence, हाँ, persistent, I can't name names, but persistence still pays more. Persistence still pays more than talent. If you are naturally, because कितने लोग हैं यार जो, and you will have known this as well. If you are talented but you're not persistent, nobody cares. You are just, कितने लोग हैं जो super talented लोग हैं जो मौका गवा देते हैं, या मेहनत नहीं करते.
Absolutely.
कौन आगे जाता है? So
yeah, so let's take a deep dive into the industry aspect more. I would have spoken about a couple of more things, but I think we are going in a very nice, very intellectual direction. So let's take it one.
बस मुझे सुशांत के ऊपर मत सवाल पूछना.
नहीं, ये हमारे शो में बारे में,
क्योंकि आज की डेट में कोई भी इंडस्ट्री डिस्कशन होता है ना, ये कहीं ना कहीं घूम के उधर आ जाता है.
नहीं, हम इंडस्ट्री का बात करेंगे. सो आई वांट टू ओनली टॉक अबाउट द इंडस्ट्री फ्रॉम द इकोसिस्टम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. Now because the comedy the industry properly, it's channelized, there are artist managers, big players are into the game, and most importantly then मेरा सुशांत से बड़े मुद्दे पे आने वाला था मैं, कोरोना. तो उसने आपकी इंडस्ट्री को कैसे इम्पैक्ट किया, तो हम उस बारे में बात करेंगे थोड़ा सा. सो हाउ द इंडस्ट्री हैज इवॉल्व्ड इन जनरल, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट दैट फर्स्ट.
So okay, I think the biggest impact, like most other industries, and I'm talking especially in the film business, we are still fine. मतलब हम फिर भी रोते हैं कि oh no, 6 महीने में शो नहीं हुआ, पैसे नहीं कमाए, blah blah blah. सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट सर हुआ है जो आपका डेली वेज अर्नर था इंडस्ट्री के अंदर. जो आदमी को आप नहीं देखते हो ना स्क्रीन पे, जो पीछे लाइट बॉय है, जो साउंड असिस्टेंट है, जो सेट कर रहा है डिजाइन, जो कॉस्ट्यूम पर्सन है, जो आपका स्पॉट दादा है, जो सारे हिडन लोग होते हैं ना, जिनके कारण आपको जो कंटेंट देखने को मिलता है, सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट उनके साथ हुआ है. उसके लिए आई थिंक वन ऑफ द बेस्ट थिंग्स दैट हैज हैपेंड इज कॉम्यून, जो रोशन अब्बास सर जो हेड करते हैं. Commune has done, and we were also participating in the live stream. They've set up a specific fund just to be able to help people from the industry, especially daily wage workers who have been impacted the most. तो सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट तो सर वहां हुआ है, without question, because टीवी शोज देख लो. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इंडिया में टीवी शोज इंटरनेशनल टीवी शोज की तरह नहीं है, ठीक है. तो अगर 3 महीने टीवी नहीं प्रोड्यूस हुआ, तो look at the number of lives that are affected.
Absolutely.
Now अभी क्या हुआ, and events business is the same. Live events तो बंद ही हो गया है, चाहे वो कॉन्सर्ट्स हो, चाहे स्टैंड अप हो, चाहे कितनी एनी लाइव इवेंट, राइट. तो सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट सर उनको आया, एंड सबसे ज्यादा लाइफ में इम्पैक्ट चेंज उन लोगों को हुआ है. एंड विच इज अनदर रीजन दैट everybody is trying to figure out a way कि how do we get back, how do we start shooting again. क्योंकि weirdly enough, in a very strange way, for somebody like me, the lockdown has been one of the best things, because I have gotten 5 months to, without distractions, to just write.
Right.
So if you ask a writer, if you ask a screenwriter, not a comedian, if you ask a screenwriter कि best lockdown कैसा गया है, mostly they will say really good, क्योंकि जो 3 पुरानी पेंडिंग स्क्रिप्ट पड़ी थी, जो डे टू डे काम के कारण खत्म नहीं हो रही थी, वो खत्म हो गई है.
Okay.
एंड एक्टर्स भी स्ट्रेस हो, क्योंकि एक्टर्स को अब 10 स्क्रिप्ट आ गया हाथ में कि भैया चूज करो. किसी को नहीं पता शूट कब स्टार्ट होगा, किसी को नहीं पता शूट कब स्टार्ट होगा, पर राइटिंग खत्म हो रही है सबकी. तो फॉर मी इट्स वियर्डली इनफ, इट्स बिन वेरी गुड,
Okay.
because I have been fully productive. I have no other distractions. I get to do what I love the most. घर बैठो, राइटर्स को वैसे घर बैठने की आदत है, हम बाहर निकलते ही नहीं ज्यादा. मैं भी एज अ कॉमेडियन सुबह दिन में लिख रहा होता था, रात को शो करके आए, वापस आगे सो गए, वो लाइफ
हाँ.
होती थी. तो कुछ बदला नहीं है, बस रात को दिन 2 घंटा चेंज हो गया. लिखने वाला काम कुछ नहीं बदला है, सेम है. So how it will impact, I am also hoping, honestly nobody has the answers. I will be very shocked if somebody has the answers.
Right.
But for example, right now, for example, we know from an events industry point of view, ईमा ने प्रपोजल दिया है महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट को कि रीस्टार्ट करें इवेंट्स जितना सेफ हो सके, keeping in mind that numbers in India are also increasing. Some shoots are also already starting to happen. TV shows shoot होने लग गए हैं बॉम्बे में.
Right.
Lot of shoots, people are going to different states. I am a little still honestly 50-50 क्योंकि partly I also feel कि यार you shouldn't be engaging in behavior where तुम दूसरे state में जाके तुम्हारे चक्कर में cases और बढ़ जाएं. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where it is also becoming finally a source of livelihood. There are so many people who've been out of work for the last 4-5 months, especially people who are on the production side, जो shoot कर रहे हैं, makeup people, costume people, the same people who spoke about. So slowly I think start हो रहा है, जितना sanitize करके, जितना वो SOPs follow करके जो central government ने दिए हैं, उससे जितना improve होएगा better ही है सबके लिए. But what long-term consequences there will be, I don't know. For example, I mean, I can tell you my own. Like right now, when we simple example दे रहा हूँ, as a screenwriter, तुम पिक्चर लिखते हो हॉल थिएटर के लिए कि ये थिएट्रिकल मूवी है, तो तुम जगह देते हो कि भाई चार गाने आएंगे, ठीक है, 4 गाने आएंगे, एक गाना इधर आएगा, एक गाना इधर आएगा, इधर आएगा, इधर. अब पता ही नहीं अब गाने डाले ना डाले.
Very inside. Very
अगर
important.
OTT पे जाएगी तो 2.5 घंटे की तो नहीं हो सकती, क्योंकि 2.5 घंटे कौन देखता है.
सही बात है
ना. आप तो स्किप करके कर रहे हो, तो छोटा करो, 2 घंटे से कम का करो. तो थोड़ा अभी क्या होगा, स्पेशली ऑन अ मूवी बिजनेस साइड ऑल्सो, द एज अ राइटर ऑल्सो, मतलब हर लेवल पे इम्पैक्ट हुआ है. एंड दीज आर वेरी स्टूपिड एंड इजी प्रॉब्लम्स. मतलब मेरे को क्या है, मेरे को 2 मिनट लगेगा कि ये हटाओ. The bigger problem obviously is on an overall business front. Like what happens to theaters? What happens to people connected with the business? What happens to their livelihoods? ये answers
हाँ, ये हमारे पास of course नहीं है. हाँ, किसी के पास भी नहीं है. हाँ, we just hope कि things go correct. Right, absolutely right. So अभी what advice do you give to young people? अब जो any guys, because अभी lockdown में because shows नहीं हो रहे, I'm sure open mics नहीं हो रहे होंगे, films are going under.
Zoom पे हो रहा है.
अच्छा, हाँ, Zoom पे. तो मैं उसी कह रहा था because अब everything has gone online. हाँ, so what's the advice, what's the entry input you think अब कैसे change होगा comedy business, screenwriting business आगे चल के? आपको क्या लगता है, especially from the point of view of somebody fresher? आज किसी ने सोचा यार comedy में आता है, 18 साल का लड़का है, 16 साल का लड़का है, wants to get into, what advice do you give them?
I feel right now it's smarter for a young person to look at themselves as a creator and not just a live comedian, how we started. Okay. It's important for them to be able to figure out, how do I utilize my social media, how do I do stuff on Instagram, how do I make myself visible. ये बहुत funny है मेरे से आते हुए, क्योंकि मैं इसमें बहुत कम time spend करता हूँ. But actually that's the advice I would give anybody, that it's important to be a creator, not just a live comedian. At the very least, it's important to have a YouTube presence from the point of view of putting your material out and stuff like that. The advantage of Zoom, even though अब जैसे मैंने भी आई थिंक अभी 12-14 Zoom शो कर लिए होंगे पिछले 3 महीने में, बट पहले 4 शो तो मेरे को ही लग गया समझ आने में कि कैसे होएगा. एवरी कॉमेडियन वाज लर्निंग, राइट? तो आई एम श्योर कुछ लोग गए होंगे कि यार ये तो बहुत ही खराब था, ये मैंने पैसे वेस्ट कर दिए. हुआ होगा, आई एम 100% श्योर. For us also it was a totally different experience. हमने नहीं किया पहले. But the audience is very forgiving because they realize that everybody is in a new, unprecedented circumstance, which is also great for young kids coming in right now who want to test jokes, because suddenly your market is fully open. You are not limited by the city. पहले होता था कि जैसे भुवनेश्वर गए तो भुवनेश्वर में कॉमेडियंस बोल रहे हैं कि यार यहाँ पे ओपन माइक ना महीने में सिर्फ 3 होती हैं, तो प्रैक्टिस करने का टाइम नहीं मिलता. अब वो एक्सक्यूज ही नहीं है, अब तो हर रात Zoom पे शो हो रहा है. तो यू आर नॉट लिमिटेड कि मेरे शहर में शो नहीं हो रहा, अब तो कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है, करो. अब क्या प्रॉब्लम है? So
Huh.
in a very interesting way, it has also made it a lot easier for somebody who wants to
Hmm.
come in, because now you're not limited by geographical boundaries.
Right.
Of course,
Right.
it's a totally different dynamic because you have to do it on Zoom, but still, I mean,
Hmm.
that's how you learn,
Hmm.
I guess, potentially, right? For
Very interesting.
screenwriters, it's different in the sense कि screenwriting में you are not you are only one part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your work is to be
Mm-hmm.
your work is then assessed by director,
Mm-hmm.
production,
Mm-hmm.
actors. They will interpret it.
Hmm.
You are a part of a machine.
Hmm.
When you're a comedian or a content creator, it's just you. मैं हूं,
Hmm.
मैं बोल रहा हूँ सीधा ऑडियंस के
Hmm.
साथ. तो वो स्किल सेट स्क्रीन
Hmm.
राइटर बनने के लिए तो इट वाज नेवर, इट इज एनीवे राइट नाउ आई फील अ गोल्डन पीरियड अगर तुम
Okay.
इंडिया में स्क्रीन राइटर बनना चाहते हो, बिकॉज फाइनली सब
Hmm.
कुछ इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज हो गया है. देर आर
Right.
सो मेनी टैलेंट एजेंसीज, देर इज
Hmm.
सो मच वर्क हैपनिंग across platforms,
Okay.
so much stuff being made. So मेरी एडवाइस तो सेम है. And unfortunately, like everybody, like even for somebody like me, I've had limited capacity, so I've not been able to take on more people than as I would like to. But
Mm-hmm.
it's the best time if you're a fresher or if you haven't learned to join somebody as a writer's assistant, right?
Okay.
Approach. So screenwriters have ये एक
Hmm.
hack बता रहा हूँ मैं.
Hmm.
So इंडिया में ये कल्चर थोड़ा कम है, पर इंटरनेशनली तो खैर बहुत ही easiest recognize है. There is a thing called a writer's assistant. So it's sort of
Hmm.
like a assistant type role only, but the main job is for this person to essentially take notes, to write out what the writers are saying, but at the same time
Okay.
also contribute to the process, contribute to the discussion. अब वो जो स्क्रीन राइटर हेड राइटर है उसके ऊपर है कि वो तुम्हारे को कितना सीरियसली लेता है या तुम्हारे आइडियाज कैसे लेता है, बट इट्स अ वेरी
Hmm.
डेमोक्रेटिक मीडियम. The idea is that
Hmm.
the whole room does not necessarily at that particular point of time spend all their time just the physicality of writing. But if you're
Hmm.
a fresher, if you've never done this before, if you don't know how to sit and behave in a room, if you don't know कि ego clashes क्या चल रहे हैं, dynamics क्या है, politics क्या है, होता ही है हर
Huh.
room में.
Huh.
So that's the best way to get in. If you love a screenwriter, write to them saying, "Can I become your writer's assistant? Can I be a part of
Hmm.
your room?"
Hmm.
उसमें आप सीख जाओगे. दो आप
Hmm.
एक प्रोसेस फॉलो करोगे ना 8 महीने में. And these are paid
Hmm.
positions. They're not
Hmm.
great paid. I mean,
Hmm.
anyway,
Hmm.
writers are not
Hmm.
great
Hmm.
paid,
Hmm.
but these
Hmm.
are this like a full time internship,
Hmm.
and you will learn everything you can. उसमें
Hmm.
आपको
Hmm.
समझ आ जाएगी. Simultaneously आप अपना स्किल डेवलप करते रहो. अगर
Hmm.
आपके कोई आइडियाज हैं आप उन पे काम करते रहो. रिसोर्सेज जितने आपको यूज करने रिसोर्सेज यूज करते रहो. नेटवर्क बनाओ अपना. तो दैट्स द एडवाइस आई वुड गिव इफ यू आर अ कंप्लीट फ्रेशर. If you are a
Okay.
21-year-old, 22-year-old just out of college who wants to make this a career, become a writer's assistant. It's the best thing. Or go into the other side. Go
Mm-hmm.
join a production company and learn how things work on the production end. But that
Okay.
does not help writing that much. But तुम्हें process समझ आ जाता है कि ऐसे शूट होता है, इतने लोग लगते हैं, इतना पैसा खर्च होता है, इतना टाइम लगता है. बहुत बहुत काम आता है वो. एज अ राइटर काम, मतलब एज अ स्क्रीन राइटर तुम्हें ना बहुत आसान है. तुमने लिख दिया कि भाई वो मेरा हीरो है, वो पहाड़ से गिर रहा है, उसके पीछे 4 हेलीकॉप्टर आ रहे हैं. अब जब तुम प्रोडक्शन में जाओगे तो पता चल जाएगा ना कि एक हेलीकॉप्टर कितने का आता है. तो
हाँ.
अपने आप एज अ राइटर पता चल जाएगा भाई पहाड़ से हटा के ना इसको ऐसे सड़क पे भगा देते हैं. तो सड़क पे भाग लेगा, एक बाइक आ जाएगा. तो वो सीख जाते हो तुम, क्योंकि
Very,
इंडियन
very
बजट समझ
interesting.
आया था तुम.
It's a good hack. So are you hiring assistants right now?
I am actually, that's why I mentioned.
Okay, super. So guys, you have an opportunity. So tell where people should write to you.
जस्ट खंबा एट लाइट एट 27 पे ईमेल कर दो मुझे. मेरे को
ठीक है.
एक दो शो चल रहे हैं जिसके लिए राइटर असिस्टेंट चाहिए मुझे.
Perfect, perfect. So you have an
If you're
opportunity,
a
and when
fresher.
we are, yeah, and when I reshare, I'll also repost this that you're hiring. Fantastic,
Done.
super. Okay, so what is light at the rate 27? Let's talk about that. A couple of people have asked this in the questions also, and of course, we
हाँ.
also want to talk about this. So what are you up to now? What is light at the rate 27?
So this is Live 27. I started last year. It's my company where essentially we, like you mentioned, it's a comedy consulting company, but we specifically are a writer's workshop. And when I say workshop, I mean like a writing shop, which we create original ideas for shows, both fiction and non-fiction, both film and for OTT in-house. And we also take on a lot of commissioned work. Uh,
Hmm.
there are two types. One is we create our own film ideas, own show ideas, and then we take them to market, specifically focused at comedy. The other is we take
Okay.
on commissioned work, where if somebody wants to create a show specifically which is in the comedy zone, they come to us ki ye hamara concept hai, can you write this out for us? That's one thing we do. We also develop a lot of other ideas and properties and IPs in anything connected to comedy in, say, for example, the audio space. So whether it's podcasts, whether it's non-fiction. So that's essentially what we do. We have a bunch of really interesting stuff going on right now. जो मैंने क्योंकि एनडीए साइन करे मैं 2-3 मैं बता नहीं सकता आपको पर हाँ अगर आप राइटर्स असिस्टेंट बन जाएंगे तो आपको एनडीए साइन करा देंगे हम तो फिर आपको पता चल जाएगा क्या करें but it's in the entertainment space only specifically and it's a lot of fun a lot of cool stuff happening which the problem is कि people will only see this अभी वो लॉकडाउन स्टार्ट हो गया नहीं तो होपफुली हम अभी शूट्स में भी होते हैं बट people will only see this a year from now तो मुझे अभी बड़ा मजा आता है क्योंकि ऑनलाइन अभी वो हो गया ना कि तुम आए नहीं तुम इंस्टा पे तुमने कुछ डाला ही नहीं बिकॉज तुम इंस्टा पे एक्टिव नहीं हो तो पीपल थिंक यू आर डेड पीपल थिंक मर गए तो वो भी होता है एक डिफरेंस बिटवीन अ कंटेंट क्रिएटर एंड अ स्क्रीन राइटर क्योंकि जब तुम स्क्रीन राइटिंग कर रहे हो तुम 8 महीने लगा रहे हो फिर वो 1 साल बाद आ रही है तो लोग कहते हैं वो तो कहाँ गया पता ही नहीं चला but that's what we're doing. So we have a really fun young team. We're developing a lot of cool concepts for a bunch of people. So मजा आएगा.
Fantastic. So that means अभी इसका कुछ बाहर आया नहीं है market में. Light at 27 it's still under the radar if I may put it that way.
हाँ, because shoot नहीं हो पा रहा अभी because of lockdown.
अच्छा.
So जैसे shoot होगा फिर आएगा. So in all likelihood 21.
Okay. 21. Fantastic. So at least from me and audience's side, we wish you all the best, and we hope to get watch some fantastic content coming from your side. So let's move on to the most exciting part that I want to talk about. Let's talk a bit about AIB, right? So because I think that was the biggest highlight of at least till now what you guys have done. This was one of the biggest highlights, which gave you all the name and fame and everything. So give us a couple of background stories behind AIB, and of course I know I've read and a lot of people do not know that you started as a podcast and went to Royal Turds and then finally created a company, and I read that you were signing pretty big checks with all like Swiggy's and Zomatos of the world. So
we were
you were right,
Swiggy not Zomato.
Swiggy
exclusivity. Oh, your headphone गिर गया.
Okay.
No, so in fact that's a very interesting a lot of learnings from the point of view of what we did at AIB, which was really cool. One was and that's another one of the reasons the differences, for example, when people said na ki what is the different path that you took, say for example, to a TVF. So we were very clear that we were creators first and we were comedians first. So for example, we decided to actively essentially self-fund. A lot of the company was funded through brand work and brand videos, which we did on the back of the stuff that we used to do on YouTube. So almost on some level early days of influencer marketing, but the idea was to be able to create really cool content which was one of a kind, which was like biggish scale, and not necessarily web series kind of stuff, because हम वो नहीं कर रहे थे, तो हम usually one off कर रहे थे या फिर series type के format में कर रहे थे. So we were mostly advertiser driven, but I think the most fulfilling, or one of the most fulfilling things to do was, I think, to produce Chintu Ka Birthday. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's on Z5. It's been streaming on Z5. Because, working with Satyanshu and Devanshu, who wrote and directed it, it is also till date, like it's one of my most cherished friendships and partnerships, and somebody I implicitly trust. He helped me immeasurably when I was writing my own show for Amazon. And to be able to do, and wo maza isliye bhi aaya tha because nobody expected a movie like that from us.
Right.
So it's So it's always fun to subvert the audience's expectations.
Hmm.
बिकॉज हमारे को जब कोई मूवी वगैरह भी ऑफर होती थी ना बैक इन द डे, तो
Hmm.
ऐसी होती थी कि वो
Hmm.
4 बच्चे हैं और फिर वो ड्रग्स होगा और फिर ये, एंड वी वर लाइक बट दिस इज नॉट मतलब दिस इज नॉट अ थिंग, यू नो, आई डोंट नो व्हाई. या फिर वो होता था ना, अगर कोई हमसे ऐसे नॉर्मल डे टू डे लाइफ में बात करता था, फिर वो कहते थे यार तुमने तो मतलब 1 घंटे में गाली नहीं दी, क्या हो गया. मतलब ऐसे थोड़ी कैजुअली थोड़ी हम लगे रहते हैं बस लोगों को गालियां देने. So that was one of the, I think that was one of the most fun things to do. I think being able
Hmm.
to produce that film
Hmm.
with Satyanshu, बहुत मजा
Hmm.
आया. जब रिलीज भी हुई तो रिएक्शन बहुत अच्छा लगा. A lot
Hmm.
of people
Hmm.
got to see it.
Hmm.
In fact, we were debating in a very weird way. Because of the lockdown, more people ended up seeing it
Yeah,
than they
absolutely.
potentially would have.
Hmm.
Um, we were just like seeing, silver linings din baith ke.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that was the most fun. And a lot of those learnings are what I'm sort of using now in Lighter
Hmm.
27 as well.
Hmm.
Because now that I've been a part of that screenwriting process, but also that production process,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
terms of seeing, how those association moves and how
Hmm.
those partnerships
Hmm.
move. That was fantastic. Um, First draft, again, something that Satyanshu,
Yeah.
like Satyanshu's baby,
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
was a very interesting thing to be able to create and experiment with, uh, specifically in screenwriting, because इंडिया में स्क्रीन राइटिंग प्रोग्राम्स बहुत ज्यादा है नहीं, हैं भी है
Hmm.
तो इतने इंटेंसिव नहीं है.
Hmm.
एंड essentially the goal was what are the impediments that people have, right? अगर मेरे को स्क्रीन राइटिंग पढ़नी है तो क्या प्रॉब्लम है कि अच्छा मेरे पास अगर बॉम्बे जाना है, रहने को घर नहीं है,
Hmm.
आई डोंट हैव money to be able to afford it, तो हमने stipend वगैरह create कर दिया था. We essentially
Hmm.
realized that the kind of people that we wanted to work with,
Hmm.
we'll only have to produce. So
Right.
and Satyanshu is one of the best teachers in the business. So
Okay.
he really took it upon himself. हमने
Hmm.
curriculum बनाया. Obviously, it's all him. Uh, where we now have done, we did 2 batches, right?
Hmm.
And hopefully more coming soon. Where even now, the that's how deep the relationship is and how fulfilling it's been. That even now, on a bunch of stuff that I'm working on, it's with it's with people who went through that first draft process, because that
Hmm.
wavelength immediately is very similar,
Hmm.
and that's a very
Hmm. Hmm.
fulfilling thing, because you can help other people achieve x number of dreams and vice versa. So it's a
Hmm.
very fulfilling relationship on both ends. So
So first,
I think
yeah,
those
go
were,
ahead.
huh,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
those
Go
are
ahead.
for me some of the most exciting sort of moments, जैसे आपने बोला,
Hmm,
highlights.
hmm, hmm, hmm. So first up was it a natural progression from you guys? Was it a market opportunity, or were you really looking at a gap of not getting good screenwriters, content writers in Indian ecosystem?
all all
What was that?
all three
All three.
all three
Okay.
all
Okay.
three
Okay.
uh, uh, Satyanshu will be better
Hmm.
adept at saying this, but uh, the ability to be able to create, and this is how helpful it was. Like, I have not gone through the first draft process myself as a student.
Okay.
I've only helped
Uh,
enable it at the back end. But by working with him consistently and working with
hmm,
everybody who went through that process consistently, I also
hmm,
learned 100 things which I wouldn't have otherwise.
hmm, hmm, hmm,
Now I know, okay, now when I look at all the resources and I realize, okay,
hmm,
this is great.
hmm,
But
hmm,
it was all three. It was a market opportunity. It was an ability to create, be able to work with people who talk the same
hmm,
language.
hmm,
Uh, at the same time, it was also a lot about enabling, people with the right training to be able to tomorrow create really cool stuff
hmm,
in the long form space, in the fiction space, non-fiction space,
hmm,
uh,
hmm,
in a sort of guided manner.
hmm,
uh,
hmm,
so it's a very nice, it's like creating your own ecosystem, right? Every time they talk about, even in the startup game, it's all about finding
hmm.
your tribe, right? So
Right.
here it's also about creating your own tribe,
Hmm, hmm.
which we had the ability to do with Sachanshu.
So are you running some similar program at Light 27 also, or is it in the pipeline, something like
it's
that?
it's in the pipeline, but I also feel
Hmm.
like, personally, I feel it's too early.
Okay.
I feel like once this set of once people see the
Hmm.
kind of stuff that we've been working on right now, when it comes out next year, It's somewhere in the pipeline for second half of 2021. So
Okay.
not right now,
Okay.
because right now we really want to just get done with the first round of concepts that we've created and putting those out.
When you were running AIBC, you were not just creators, but you were technically entrepreneurs as well, right? It was properly running a
Yes,
company. And solo
100%.
में तो क्या होता है when you're single, when you're freelancing, money आप कैसे manage कर लेते हो, but money management, managing a team, legalities, there are hundreds of things that are run around it, and you have been
Yeah,
an entrepreneur
yeah.
yourself. So what are your maybe two or three, maybe three is a good number. What are your top three advice or top three learnings that you derive from your journey of entire AIB from start to finish, and then that you would want to share with the audience?
I think 2, 3 very strong ones very clearly. One is we really bootstrapped. We never raised money from the market. We really were very self-sustainable. In fact, हम ये founders forum वगैरह में जाके joke मारते थे that we are the only profitable CEOs here in this room, because because the Paytms and the Make My Trips of the world are constantly in debt. We are the only ones who are full profit. बताओ हम खिलाते हैं dinner, बताओ कहाँ जाना है. So we were very happily bootstrapped, and I really think that inculcates a certain discipline in terms of how you are with money from a company perspective. I think towards the end, we did become slightly more ambitious with our goals. Like for example, when producing a movie, running first draft, that is so, and we would never have been able to do that had we not done the earlier half well.
Right.
That's a major learning that we're implementing now also. The second part, which is again a very major part, which now I know, is that I don't know how the guys feel about it, but in hindsight, I think because all four of us were creator first, kind of like a mentality, like we're creative people first. I always feel like if you are a creator, you need a separate CEO who is not a creator. Somebody who is not from your universe, who does not give a shit about emotionally connecting with content. Because I think as creative people, you get very caught up in the creative of यार नहीं ये तो मुझे पसंद है, इसमें मेरे को फील आनी चाहिए, ये चलेगा, ये मूवी मुझे पसंद है, because a lot of the creative business is a gut business. I really gut wise feel we should do this because you're essentially going instinctive. I feel it's always valuable to have somebody who does not give a shit about content and emotions connected with you being able to do that, and being very by the numbers and very blunt, saying this only makes sense to do if it achieves these benchmarks or not. So another major learning, which is something that is being implemented for sure. Third, I really feel, and in fact, this one is not practical for somebody who's listening to be able to implement, but I really feel like for me personally, and it's thoda contradictory hoga to my last point, but I also really learned to filter out the noise when it came to content, because hua kya tha, when we started, we were just the four of us.
Right.
And then as you grow, you are 10 and 15 and 20 and 25. And there's a lot of differing opinion. There's a lot of different types of things suddenly in your head which you don't otherwise take into consideration when you just started. So I think one of the things I personally also learned was to filter out the noise. Even though I am by nature a very what do you think, what is your opinion, sabka opinion leke decide karne wala type of person in terms of a decision making or a leadership style. But also in that leadership style, I feel like to not get caught up with a variety of opinions and agendas, I think is very important. So I think I sort of learned to develop that part of me as well. It has served me well. And I think I sort of used that as well. And fourth, मैं बोल देता हूँ, even though it's connected to third only.
Go ahead.
I feel like and this is something we're trying to implement now also in Lighter 27. It is always, I feel like, difficult when it's a creative business. Is that age-old saying, like, you take care of the process and the results will follow. Most creative businesses are very all over the place in terms of following a process even when it comes to something as simple as writing a show. अगर आप
Okay.
शो लिख रहे हो तो शो लिखने के भी 4 स्टेजेस 5 स्टेजेस होते हैं. पर सबका ना कभी इधर हो जाता है कभी उधर हो जाता है बिकॉज अच्छा आज ये एक्टर ने ये बोल दिया तो ये कर लो, आज उस प्रोड्यूसर ने ये बोल दिया तो ये कर लो, आज ये नहीं मार्केट में ये चल रहा है तो ये कर लो. तो उसमें क्या होता है उस प्रोसेस में ना उस चक्कर में प्रोसेस की बैंड बज जाती है. तुम्हारा प्रोडक्ट सफर करता है एंड में जो तुम क्रिएट करना चाह रहे हो. तो ये हमारा आई थिंक फुल प्रूफ नहीं था एंड आई थिंक ये किसी भी एंटरटेनमेंट कंपनी में फुल प्रूफ नहीं होता है. But I feel like a lot of those learnings in terms of taking care of that process and smoothening that out is something that we take very seriously internally now at Light 27. We are still building it because it's one of those, it has to be one of those one size fits all kind of process.
Right. Your voice is broken, kind of. Just a second. Something has happened. I think. Yeah.
My voice now? Is my voice fine?
Yeah. Audible. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So I think now that focus on creating that process is something like we are taking, like it's sacrosanct now.
Okay.
To be able to build that. So to be able to create a supply chain, and I'm actually quite proud of what we've achieved even right now, because now every time we have a new idea, we know that to take it from idea to concept, it has to follow an exact process, and it's standardized across the board. So that's a very good thing for me as well.
Okay. So another very important critical part that you touch, and it's a part of my flow as well, is that relationship with money. I think, and this is something I always ask people, because when you are a creator, when you are into an unconventional career, or maybe an entrepreneur as well, initially in the early days you don't get money. And something you said that a lot of in fact you shared two very interesting insights. That one, you were of course bootstrap as a company, which is a very important, and I so feel happy when I hear it from a creator using the typical startup jargons, bootstrap. Okay. And then of course that it was self-funded, a lot of money was coming in. So tell me your relationship with money in the early stages of your career. How was it? How did you manage to float? And then secondly, what advice do you give? What hacks, what things you can tell to the people who are now getting into this space, and now what's the survival strategy basically?
So okay, so I want to preface this by saying I am not the best person to answer this, but I will give because I am, and this is one of those things I've had to teach myself, because I personally am very numbers averse. Most creative people who are very like, yaar mujhe wo CA kar lega yaar, mujhe nahi karna. It's one of those kind of a situation. I also feel like I was lucky enough to have grown up in an environment where very rarely or very few times did I ever feel like, yaar agar ye pura fail ho gaya na to sadak pe aa jayenge. Because touch wood, there was enough family support saying to risk le jaake.
Acha.
Which is a very rare and like a position of privilege.
Absolutely.
And you need to always be aware of that. Which is why if say for example to be a comedian, if you don't, and it's really hats off, because it's everybody who becomes a comedian, not everybody comes from like family being able to say okay, kar lo. Which is why a lot of kids who want to become comedians full time, I always am like, wait, if you don't need to leave your job, don't leave your job. Do this the second thing, but don't leave it. Don't turn this into कि मेरे को full time ही करना है, मतलब जल्दबाजी में मत करो. But हुआ क्या? Because of, so I want to preface that first thing. Second, I feel like despite that, because of the fact that we sort of were self-funded, and I also feel like whatever we would make, we would sort of keep putting back in the company. I feel like now I'm at a place where I am and I'm also older, and now I'm married, which is a very different state of being.
Right.
When it comes to when you're 23 and chalo yaar. So you have nothing to lose at that point. Right now you're responsible for a lot more things and a lot more people. So I definitely think my relationship with money that way has changed fundamentally because now there is, I feel, a lot to lose. I feel like there is a lot more discipline which has come from the fact that you've done the process once where you've not taken investor money, you've essentially plowed your own money back into the system and helped to reap rewards. But what I am trying to do at this particular stage, and this is always a process, is make sure everybody working with me in the team, especially, for example, now with lockdown, so much has changed, right? To always know to have enough of a runway for you to be able to sustain. Whereas back in the day, we never thought of it like that. We were very much month to month, 2 months to 2 months, without thinking about runways, without thinking about if this goes wrong, what happens. Right now, a lot of that modeling has fundamentally changed. And I feel like with most businesses now post-COVID, I think in general, this would have happened already if it hasn't happened now.
Right.
Our business, especially, is when you are a screenwriter, is a very messed up business when it comes to cash flow. People need to know that as well. That you will sign so I'll tell you how a screenwriting contract works. I'll give you an example.
Sure,
Suppose
please.
आपको कोई प्रोडक्शन हाउस कह रहा है कि 5 लाख रुपए देंगे आपको स्क्रिप्ट लिखने के, थम्स अप, आपको मिलेगा 10% साइनिंग पे, ठीक है, 50,000 रुपए आ गए. फिर वो कहेंगे आप पहला ड्राफ्ट जब भेजोगे ना स्क्रिप्ट का, तब आपको 10% और दे देंगे. तो वो लग जाएंगे आपको 3 महीने मिनिमम.
ओके.
तो वो अगले 10% के लिए आप 3 महीने बाद इनवॉइस फाड़ोगे. 3 महीने बाद इनवॉइस फाड़ोगे तो 2 महीने बाद चेक आएगा. तो आपको सस्टेन करने के लिए 6 मंथ का है क्या?
हाँ, very interesting.
So to be a screenwriter is like, you know how most freelance writers, it's always a process of following up on your invoices, because it's a very bad cash flow business.
Okay.
So somebody like me, I still have an advantage of I can do shows, I can do brand stuff, I can do 10 other things which sort of help me cushion my runway a little bit. Otherwise, it's brutal. The number of screenwriters I know and I talk to every day right now, मैं start ही conversation ऐसे करता हूँ कि check clear हुआ क्या? तो क्योंकि people don't know this also. This is how tough it is to be a writer. आपने पूरा स्क्रिप्ट लिख लिया, आपको यूजुअली सिर्फ 50-60% मिलता है पेमेंट. उसके बाद पिक्चर जब शूट होती है फिर आपको 10% और मिलता है. फिर पिक्चर शूट होना खत्म हो जाती है, फिर आपको 10% और मिलता है. फिर जब पिक्चर रिलीज हो जाती है, अब आप ये देख लो कि वो 5 लाख रुपए के लिए जो आपने मेहनत की है, उसका आखिरी 50,000 रुपए आपको 2 साल बाद मिलेगा. क्या आप रेडी हो? वो पिक्चर अगर फ्लॉप हो जाए फिर आपको 3 महीने कोई नहीं देखेगा.
अच्छा,
क्या आप रेडी हो? अगर वो पिक्चर हिट हो जाए फिर सभी आ जाएंगे.
हाँ. So it's a tough business to be in, right?
That's why I said you need to love the process of writing. If you don't love the process, if you don't love the story, because every writer has done this, and I can guarantee you, everybody has written garbage stuff only for money, जिसमें उनका नाम भी नहीं आया, जिसमें नाम भी नहीं आया.
Absolutely.
मैं लिख देता हूँ, मेरा नाम नहीं आना चाहिए.
हाँ. Fantastic point. So
क्रिएटर बनने में easier है.
हाँ, समझ गया. Good point. Very nice. So this brings to my last section, and then I have a couple of questions for rapid fire, and people have been asking questions in chat as well. I think we have a couple of very interesting questions, so we'll pick them up very quickly. You partially mentioned this point when you started the money conversation, that the family has always been supportive, but in a lot of cases when you enter entrepreneurship, you want to start your company, you want to be a creator, comedian especially, right? कि अच्छा जोक सुनाएगा, ठीक है. I remember somebody I think it was Karan Singh Magic in one of my episodes on 5th, and he was saying that somebody asked his father like 3 days back that अच्छा बेटा क्या करता है कि अच्छा जादू वादू तो ठीक है but करता क्या है अब क्या कर रहा है. So what you of course have spoken a bit about your relationship with the family. They've been very supportive, but what's your advice for young guys, for young creators, wherein they don't find a family support, or maybe what's the way to kind of bring family on your side, because you have to be with them, of course.
Only way to bring family in your side is to be successful.
Okay.
Honestly. Because I feel like वही है यार, आपके 2 वीडियो हिट हो जाएंगे, आपके मम्मी पापा सडनली प्राउड हो जाएंगे. वो बगल में शर्मा अंकल का फोन आ जाएगा कि आपके बेटे की फोटो देखी मैंने, बड़ा अच्छा लगा, तो सडनली खुश हो जाएंगे. तो वो I really think that's the only way, because
okay.
मुझे ये भी लगता है कि आज की मार्केट में don't leave, if you have a job, don't leave it. Do it on the side so that at least you have some backing. That you are not leaving everything caution to the wind. Because I also feel like आज की डेट में ना हमारा कल्चर बहुत वो हो गया है, वो फॉलो योर पैशन वाला कल्चर बहुत हो गया है. तो करो फॉलो योर पैशन, बट वो फॉलो योर पैशन के चक्कर में सबको इन्फ्लुएंसर बनना है तो सभी नौकरियां छोड़ रहे हैं, वो भी खराब है. I feel like you need to be a little more balanced in terms of and there are so many people like that. There are so many comics I know who when they reach that tipping point कि अब मैं sustain कर सकता हूँ और अब मेरे पास runway है,
sure.
तब करो. वो इंस्टा पोस्ट देख के बहक मत जाओ कि वो उसने बोला था जी फॉलो योर पैशन, तो निकल लिए. तो स्टीव जॉब्स ने तो छोड़ दिया था अपना कॉलेज, वो बड़ा होता है ना, तो
ड्रॉप आउट. हाँ,
अब वो गए भी तो हार्वर्ड थे ना, वो छोटी यूनिवर्सिटी थोड़ी गए थे.
I'll give you a very interesting analogy as a wrap to this part, because I think we're just almost there on the end of the conversation. So a lot of kids, when they reach out to me for this startup thing, so they're like, sir drop out कर लेते हैं, and I'm like drop out कर तो लोगे, and then they start quoting examples. So कुछ बच्चे बोलते हैं हमने पिक्चर देखा था फिर स्टार्टअप करना है, कुछ बच्चे बोलते हैं कि सिलिकॉन वैली देख कर आए, थोड़े पढ़े लिखे होते हैं. कुछ बच्चे फिर वही एग्जाम्पल बिल गेट्स, स्टीव जॉब्स एंड मार्क जुकरबर्ग. I'm like तुम कहाँ, तुम लक्ष्मी नारायण किसी कॉलेज से तो ड्रॉप आउट हो रहे हो जिसका कोई जानता नहीं है. So it's a big thing. I understand this point. Yeah, very insightful. Yeah,
100%. I think वो बहको मत, बस take a measured approach. And when you think the point is right, you do it. Nobody is saying don't do it. Do it at the right time.
Okay.
And I feel pressure बहुत है ना कि लोग क्या कहेंगे अगर अनसक्सेसफुल हो गए, वो प्रेशर मत लो. You need to love the process enough.
Right.
Sorry, I keep
So very insightful, Khamba. I think it was a very fun conversation. I have now a few light-hearted, rapid-fire questions for you. But I really enjoyed the conversation. If there would have been more time, I would like to bring you more often on the podcast. And I think it was super fun talking to you.
I think हमने थोड़े स्क्रीन राइटर बनने से डिस्करेज कर दिए लोग हमने. जब उनको पता चला ना कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का डिवीजन कैसे होता है, वहां पे सबके सपने टूट गए.
नहीं, बट मुझे लगता है सच्चाई बताना जरूरी भी है. आई थिंक दैट्स द आइडिया, बिकॉज़ इफ यू आर एंटरिंग इनटू अ बिजनेस जस्ट फॉर द फैंसी ऑफ इट,
इट्स नॉट ग्लैमरस. राइटर का लाइफ बहुत ही ग्लैमरस नहीं है, तो वो धक्के खाने वाला काम है. तो वो मन बना के आओ कि धक्के खाने हमने.
But very important point that you said, you need to be in the love of love with the process. If that's not there, I think everything goes for a toss. So you have on a lighter side, you do something around basketball also. I know you have a sneaker collection and you have been to NBA also. So what's that thing? Because that is something which nobody knows about you. Yeah.
No, so I am obsessed with basketball. I wake up. अभी तो खैर रात को आ रही हैं games, but so I have a basketball team. Ranvijay runs a league called the Streetball League. इसका in fact season 2 start होने वाला था अभी lockdown से पहले. And the idea of the league was essentially to encourage amateur basketball talent from India and provide them an opportunity to be able to be seen on a better stage. So last year we did the first season. It was a very interesting trial. We got great players from across the country. So I have a team in the league, and anything associated with promoting Indian basketball, मेरे को कोई phone करके बोलता है मैं पहुंच जाता हूँ. I'm obsessed with the sport. So
Okay.
थोड़ा मेरा वो cricket वाला वो है obsession. So that's I was never a great player myself, so I think it's one of those होता है ना कि बाप अपने बेटे से अपने सपने पूरे करवाता है वाला सिचुएशन. तो थोड़ा मेरा वो वाला सीन है. तो जितना खराब प्लेयर मैं था, मैं अपनी टीम को वो करता हूँ कि नहीं तुम कर सकते हो, और वो तो अच्छे प्लेयर है. तो but no, anything to promote the sport. I love the game, so I'm all
not a good player but a great coach maybe.
कोच तो मैं हुई नहीं तो वही ना, that's the other problem. अगर घटिया प्लेयर कोच बन जाए फिर तो खत्म, तो फिर तो फायदा ही क्या. I like to stay out of the way, but मतलब it's not just my team. I love just watching the game anywhere. Like so I'm even teams I don't support I watch because I just enjoy following it. So that's just a obsession that I have. Not everybody knows about.
Okay, what's the secret formula of going viral? Because I think AIB decoded pretty well. So please tell our audience what's the secret formula of going viral.
देखो आज की डेट का सीक्रेट फॉर्मूला है गाड़ी में बैठ के गालियां निकालो. ठीक है. आज की डेट का ठीक है, कोई भी ऐसे इमोटिव सब्जेक्ट पकड़ो और बैठ जाओ गाड़ी में. तो ये है सीक्रेट फॉर्मूला. हमारे टाइम पे तो देखो अलग होता था, तो अब मैं क्या ही बताऊं. हमारे जमाने में नहीं आता, हम करते होते तो we never played it from a secret sauce point of view, but of course this is again pre Geo days, but we really, the only thing that we sort of used as a metric was, is this going to make us laugh? If it was a subject that was slightly emotive or topical, but we only made it if we really genuinely felt strongly about it, because नहीं तो वो ना ऑडियंस को भी पता चल जाता है कि ये सिर्फ टॉपिक ट्रेंड हो रहा है इसलिए बना रहे हैं, वो ऑडियंस झूठ पकड़ लेती है. So for us it was anything that was emotive to us as people, what we would want to do about, punch it up with as many jokes as possible. Secret formula जो हमने एक दो बारी ट्रिक यूज भी किया है. We were very lucky that we got an opportunity to work with so many incredibly talented people. So जैसे इरफान सर के साथ जब हम इरफान सर के साथ काम करने का मौका मिला, तो हमने कहा कि इरफान सर ने क्या नहीं किया है. इरफान सर ने डांस किया, उनको डांस कराते हैं, मजा आएगा. तो एंड ही वाज आल्सो सो सपोर्टिव. तो हमें वो करने में बहुत मजा आता था. The stuff that we wanted people to, जो हम चाहते थे लोगों के साथ करना. But otherwise it was make it funny, make it topical, make it timely, genuinely give a shit and have a point of view. वो भी आज की डेट में है. You need to have a point of view, because अगर तुम्हारे या तो haters वायरल कर देंगे या सपोर्टर वायरल कर देंगे, कोई ना कोई तो कर ही देगा. But so always have a point of view. बीच गली मत पकड़ो basically.
Okay, choose sides basically. Either be the right wing or the left wing. बीच में liberal हो गया.
Left पकड़ो या right पकड़ो. या अभी गाड़ी पकड़ो.
या फिर गाड़ी पकड़ो. Okay. What's been your biggest fear so far? Or what's your biggest fear?
What's my biggest fear?
Yeah.
Oof. It's a very interesting question. Haven't even thought about it for a while. I don't know. I think especially over the last 3 months, I think just illness. I think just people getting sick. Because I think I think we are in that environment where also when you're younger, you don't think about those things. I think now when you see your parents aging, just tiny things, like my wife had a bit of like an issue in her hand, like it was hurting a lot for like 2 months. Even tiny things like that now get very stressful too. So I think, and plus वैसे ही COVID का माहौल, तो I think just reading that news, that gets to me a lot now. That has genuinely like made me super anxious, as it has everyone. I mean, I'm not the only one there. Everyone has been very stressed about that. So I think that really is, especially over the last 5-6 months, like really bad. As with everyone, yeah.
Okay. What's the dream project or the aspirational project, or what's the dream? Like maybe you can talk about the project also, or maybe if not the project, what's your dream, what's your aspiration, what you want to, where you want to be?
No, so there are two that I'm already working on,
Mm-hmm.
which hopefully you guys will get to see next year.
Mm-hmm.
These are just stories I've been wanting to tell since forever, like since at
Okay.
least a decade. तो मैं पहले तो अपना वो वाला कीड़ा निकाल रहा हूँ ना, all the stories that I was in love with that I wanted to tell, that was the first round. किसको
ठीक है.
सब लिख डालो और सब प्रोड्यूस कर दो. Around, so all the stuff that I really love, basketball, stuff like that. I stuff that I love, animals. I love trying to tell stories around those things because then I get emotionally very invested. So दो हैंड में से जो आपको अगले साल या फर्स्ट टू वर्स्ट अगर कोरोना सिचुएशन अच्छा नहीं गया तो अर्ली 22 में देखने को मिलेगा.
Sure.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. What's been your weirdest experience, or so tell us both weirdest and the most delightful experience, a fan moment. So let's talk about the fan moments. सबसे वाहियात fan moment क्या था, सबसे weirdest क्या था, सबसे बेहतरीन क्या था?
Yeah, there was this weirdest fan moment एक था, ये मेरे साथ खुद नहीं हुआ है, but I think Ashish was telling me once. Ashish and me were sharing a room somewhere in some hotel in Delhi, and somebody called at 2 in the morning asking for me, and it was very scared. It was very scary because it was very like weirdly sexual or something in Ashish's words. In Ashish's words. So,
Okay.
and मेरे को कुछ नहीं पता है, मैं सो रहा था, ये आशीष बता रहा था मुझे. I think technically that would be the weirdest. एक फिर था, but usually ना मेरा थोड़ा वो है, मैं बहुत anti social हूँ. That's one thing people don't know about me. I am very anti social because I am very happy sitting in front of my computer writing all day. So a lot of people like तो एक बहुत fun था. There was, I don't know which, somewhere I was at some airport. तो एक बंदा आके ऐसे टैप किया, तो कह रहा है फोटो ले लूं, और मैं बहुत ऑकवर्ड हूँ, तो मेरे को फोटो लेना अच्छा नहीं लगता. तो और सुबह 5 बजे 5:30 बजे, तो मैंने कहा नहीं यार छोड़ना, मतलब क्या. तो कह रहा है कि तो बट सी पीपल इंटरप्रेट इट रॉन्गली. कह रहे एक तो इतना बड़ा है भी नहीं, फिर तू एटीट्यूड दे रहा है. तो मैं कहा यार अब where do I start explaining to this person fucking social anxiety and not wanting to take pictures. अब वो बुरा मान गया और चला गया. बोला यार shit. अब वो कहाँ समझाते फिर हो कि यार मुझे अच्छा है, it's not you, I just hate
it's not you, it's me.
I hate getting these photos taken. तो वो था, वो मैं हंसा बहुत है. When he said that I really laughed. I was like, well, fair, इसका approach correct है, तो I laughed.
Okay. Okay. What's been your inspiration? So, as in, who inspires you as a person, or what's been inspiration like?
Yeah. So, bunch of people. One is because like तो मेरे साथ वो बहुत होता है. Because I love basketball, I watch a lot of documentaries around basketball. मैंने सब देखा हुआ. So every time I watch something really awesome, the latest one अपना जो सभी से inspire हुए थे, वो Netflix पे है, The Last Dance documentary है Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Now,
that's beautiful.
So even if you're not a basketball fan, you feel like मेरे को कुछ करना है जाके. Like I want to do something. But that kind of inspiration I feel is sort of unachievable. Like मैं उससे 2 घंटा inspire हो जाता हूँ, फिर मैं lazy हो जाता हूँ, तो उसके बाद मैं करता हूँ. But like there are a lot of other people. But say somebody like I'll bring it back to Satyanshu again, right? Somebody like Satyanshu who ran First Draft.
Yes.
Who was who helped me so much from a writing perspective when I was doing my show. Somebody like him is somebody I get to speak to. It's a very interesting privilege to get to speak to him like an equal, because him I see in action.
Right.
Every time I speak to him, I see him like fully dedicated, fully focused, the way he lives his life. So those are kind of things which inspire you on a day-to-day basis, which I feel is
Right.
a lot more practical because you genuinely implement those.
Right.
And even a lot of people from my team who take on so much stuff because there is so much to do. And the way they manage multiple tasks, how they are so fully focused and so committed to the stories that we're telling. So even the guys in my team and the guys and girls in my team, it's a very it's a almost like, I will say, not almost, I mean, it's a privilege in the sense that I get really invested in making the stories that they are also so passionate about, making them happen.
Right.
And working with them on a day-to-day basis because they sort of are relentless in the way they attack that process. And so it's a lot of so that daily inspiration is a very works a lot better for me compared to like a Last Dance kind of a documentary.
Right. Fantastic. So we'll now pick up a few questions from the audience side which have already come. So I'll not take any more questions from from whatever we have got. We'll quickly filter. I know we had a time limit, but we have surpassed that. I'll quickly take 5 more minutes of yours and then we'll quickly wrap. So and maybe you can try and answer them in a quick nutshell. So there's a question from Ayu. She says, "How has life been after AIB?"
Very comfortable.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. So Mukul has a question. What's his take on nepotism debate?
I don't know. If I have a kid, then I will see.
Okay.
I don't know yet.
Sidhesh has a question. What's your take on new content creators trying to make sketches on a very low budget? How should one go about it?
I think it's fantastic. I think so many, man. Started with Bhuvan, Be Unique, Saloni is so funny. Shubham. I think that process, the fact that you don't need to do, I mean, I personally am thoda spoiled. So if something has like sexier production values and stuff like that, I always enjoy watching it more. But I think these guys are awesome because, again, right, persistence, timeliness, emotive subjects, funny.
Right.
So everybody's hitting the same sort of benchmark. So I really enjoy watching the content. I follow them all fairly religiously on Instagram. So it makes me laugh a lot.
But I think this person wants to understand how to go about it. Like how do you enter? How do you do it?
Literally, there is no process. Then pick up your camera and start. None of these people have. Just look at answer the question. What do I genuinely care about that I want to talk about? What is my point of view that I don't feel other people are bringing forward? And try and say it in your own way without trying to copy anyone. Because if you have a subject that you care about, तुम्हारा content truthful होगा, तुम झूठ नहीं बोल रहे होगे, तुम किसी को copy नहीं कर रहे होगे, और तुम्हारा uniqueness होगा जो audience अपने आप ढूंढ लेगी. So because you don't need fancy studio and set and stuff like that, everybody is putting their phone together only, ना. So just वो तीन चीजें याद रखो and start. The worst thing will happen is nobody will watch it. The best thing that will happen is the whole world will watch it, and it's there is only an upside. The downside to hai nahi.
Fantastic advice. So from Samir, there's a question. How do I start with a premise if I want to start with stand-up? Couldn't move forward with the process.
So the easiest premise, starting with a premise, the easiest process is what is the thing that irritates me the most? Or what is the thing that irritates me about X? And then putting down the list of what are those things that irritate you and why. So that is the first building block that you can start with, because then that will give you what makes stand-up funny? It's the exploration of your own psychology.
Okay.
Right? So if you can say, I hate babies, that's not funny. That's not funny. That's a statement. That's your premise. Why you hate babies is what will give you the joke. Saying, I hate babies because they cry, not going to probably make somebody laugh. But if you say, I hate babies because, I don't know, they are better looking than me and hence I don't get any attention, maybe that's a slightly different way of tackling it. I mean, that's not fun, but you get what I'm trying to do in terms of take a situation, see what is the premise, what is irritating you, and then how do you attack it.
Hmm.
So that is the simplest way to kickstart it, the process.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Manpreet has a question. I don't know whether it's a question or statement. He says, "Sir, open mic helps for testing stuff."
Yes.
Here's a question. Okay.
Yes.
Abhiraj has a question. What are your thoughts on podcasts now?
I love it. I really think that podcasts are in the place where. So for me, I'm a podcast fiend. Like I listen to a shit ton of podcasts, and the podcasts I usually listen to are three types. That because now there is enough content. One is history. The second is sports, and the third is the news. So I, for
Okay.
example, don't get the news from your TV, Indian TV, because it's just noise. But if I need to get the news or a global this thing, अब तो डिफरेंट ये हो गया कि नाउ पहले तो होता था कि कम्यूट में सुन लेते थे पॉडकास्ट में, अब वो नहीं है। तो अपना टाइम निकालता हूँ सोने से पहले 1 घंटा में, दैट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ माय शेड्यूल.
Okay.
So
And-
I feel the market is almost oversaturated, but there is so much good stuff in terms of storytelling. I feel like it's the only difference is that in India it's not been monetized fully yet, but I think we will get there in another year or two, not far off.
any podcast you want to recommend to the audience?
Which subject? I really
Your
like.
favorite, I mean. Yeah.
I really like The Seen and the Unseen by Amit Verma. I like that. I really love there's one of my favorite movie podcasts called the Rewatchables. The
Okay.
Rewatchables is basically part of the Ringer network, where they basically discuss old movies, 80s and 90s, as to what makes it fun. I listen to a lot of. So my favorite podcast network is the Ringer. They are the biggest podcast network in the world, and they do a shit ton of sports, movies, pop culture. So in fact, you will also really enjoy this. They did a recent podcast. They did a 7-episode series on the rise and fall of HQ trivia.
Okay.
It was fantastic. So much fun. I think let me pull out the name of it. I think it was this only.
Sure.
So even a lot of that kind of stuff, right? And then everybody listens to Joe Rogan and this and that. तो वो तो सबका है ही. हाँ, listen to this also. If you're a movie fan, then you should listen to. कहाँ गया वो? Okay, मेरे को मिल नहीं रहा, मैंने delete कर दिया because एक season के बाद. हाँ, ये रहा. Boom Bust. It's called Boom Bust. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
This is the HQ trivia one.
Okay.
7-episode series, 20 minutes on what happened. So stuff like this I'm really interested in. तो कुछ ना कुछ नया आता रहता है.
Okay. There's another question from Abhiraj. I think there are 2 questions rather, so I'll club them. How do you think pivoting can work for comedians as well? Do you think pivoting can work for comedians as well, like creating vlogs, learning videos, education podcasts, etc., or is it necessary not to pivot?
No, you have to pivot. You can't. If you see anyone right now, everybody's trying to do that only. Na, either they're trying to be a short form creator, or they're getting into gaming, or they're doing what do you call screenwriting. Everybody is essentially looking at upskilling almost with a different, either in a different vertical entirely, or being in the same ecosystem but learning a new skill.
Absolutely.
Most comedians are also writers. Some of them are also actors. Some of them are also hosts. Some of them are also screenwriting. Some of them are also gaming. So you just need to know in all of the pivoting what is your core. You need to just know what your core is. Like I know my core is screenwriting, but I also love comedy. So I will pivot around this. So you need to figure what your core is first before you decide.
Okay. What do you think? Same guy, Abhiraj. What do you think about brands connecting with comedians for endorsement? How does it get integrated with content as an independent creator?
Really depends. I mean, we used to do a bunch of stuff. Abhi bhi hota hi hai. I've done a bunch of stuff, unboxings and so much. I really feel like comedians are essentially have become one of those boxes that you need to tick when you're looking for influencers. कि 2 बॉलीवुड होना चाहिए, एक स्पोर्ट्स होना चाहिए, एक कॉमेडियन होना चाहिए. तो और फिर वो हो जाता है कि आप अपने तरीके से कर दीजिए, आप थोड़ा फनी कर दीजिए. Stuff like that. After I got married, I did a bunch of stuff which was specifically around marriage.
Okay.
where we did a lot of brand integrations around like being a new couple. We did some cool stuff with Nestaway, with Oppo. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunities where it's a natural fit, and I also feel there's a lot of opportunities where it's a forced fit, but because उसके follower हैं तो चलो उनसे भी करा देते हैं. तो I always feel like as a consumer, the natural ones I still enjoy watching. The forced ones, but ठीक है यार, comedians are making money. So
Okay. There's a question from Students Union. What is the most enjoyable and the most difficult thing about screenwriting? I think you've already answered that. I want to kind of summarize it in one line.
One line में कर दूँ. Most enjoyable thing is finishing a draft. The most irritating thing is nobody producing your draft.
Okay. There are 3 questions from Amy. We'll club them. So, of course, she says that I want to join as an assistant. Okay, Amy, please write to Gursimran Khamba. What are the few differences between screenwriting for OTT platform and screenwriting for film industry, film release in theater? Is there a difference in process for both
Yes,
of them?
film industry will really depend producer to producer what is the writing process that they follow. It depends on what is the kind of movie that you are making. Are you writing a film which is supposed to be a 100 crore masala entertainer blockbuster where people don't give a shit about logic? For OTTs, it's a lot more streamlined in the sense that there are specific things that you need to follow. The first stage is the concept note. The second stage is called a show Bible. The third stage is the pilot. Once the pilot gets approved, then you have to write the rest of the episodes. So it's a very streamlined process. And at every process, there is somebody who's giving you feedback consistently, saying ki pilot tak. So there is a lot of times where you will write you will work on it for 4 months and 5 months, and pilot लोगों को पसंद नहीं आया and खत्म. Sorry, मजा नहीं आया, तुम्हें तब तक के पैसे मिल जाएंगे, then you restart. With films, it's a totally different thing. With films, you don't have those many processes. I mean, you do, but and also that's also true that a lot of films that you write will never get made. So you just write. There's no guarantee that it will get made. With OTTs also, there is a higher possibility it will get made. Because OTTs will only invest in that story idea if they genuinely think they want to make it. Films के लिए तुमने कोई story लिखी और suddenly कुछ मैं example दे रहा हूँ, bad example. तुमने 1 साल पहले कोई script लिखी कि जिसमें Indian और Chinese soldier दोस्त बन गया. अब वो नहीं बन रही 10 साल के लिए. अब बैठो.
सही बात है. हाँ.
है ना, और वो अब 1 साल तुम्हारा वेस्ट हुआ, उसके जो तुम्हें मिल गए, अब नाउ यू कीप इट, एंड 10 साल बाद अगर दोस्ती होगी तो निकाल लेना, तो खत्म. OTTs will not invest in those kind of ideas also beyond a point which can fundamentally go haywire.
Sure.
And also OTTs will give you the opportunity to write a lot of stuff which you can't do in films. Films में you can't tell a story of 2 teenagers trying to kill zombies. You know, इंडिया में नहीं बिकेगी. इंडिया में फिल्म में होएगा कि हीरो कौन है, हीरोइन कौन है, टीनेजर थोड़ी होएगा हीरो हीरोइन, तो हटाओ. So the limit, every platform comes with their own limits. OTTs have slightly more freedom of genre. You can write more genres in OTTs compared to film.
So I will take a pause here and maybe ask you for permission first, because I have more questions in my pipeline, and there are a couple of them are very interesting ones. Do we really have time to pick them up? Because I don't want to.
I have 4% battery left in my computer.
So we'll wrap then.
So we can take 1 or 2 more. मैंने brightness अपनी बिल्कुल कम कर दी.
Okay. So let me.
तो आप सबसे interesting वाला पूछ लो. फिर मैं automatically गायब हो जाऊंगा.
अच्छा, okay. No, so I don't want you to go गायब, because I want to have a backstage, like a minute chat with you. So I'll wrap, and then maybe we can, I can send you these questions. You can answer them on your Instagram or something like that, or something like that, right? Okay. So okay. So I think let's do a wrap. So I think first of all, let me thank you so much for coming on today, and we literally surpassed time. This is one of the longest episodes. This is the most interesting ones. And नहीं, it's super content. मैं तो 1 घंटा और बात कर सकता हूँ आपसे. It's super fun, and I would also say most watched. So thank you so much for giving and sharing so many very interesting insights.
No
And
problem.
I hope I will host you another time because I think it was super fun chatting with you.
Awesome.
So I'll meet you at the backstage. Just be there for a second and let me thank the audience as well.
Done.
Thank you so much. People, you can give a thumbs up and say thanks to Gursimran. And you can type in the chat. And I hope you enjoyed the show. It was very insightful for all of you. So yeah, I think it's already 1 hour 40 minutes. People, what is wrong with all of us? I think it was a great chat with Gursimran Khamba. So thank you all. Thank my sincere thanks to all of you for joining in today and watching this episode of Cracking the Code. If you like what we are doing, uh, please spread a word about it. Go and subscribe to the channel, share the episode. It's going to be on the channel after the live ends as well. So there are three things I want you to do. First of all, please let us know in the comment section below, not in the live chat, in the comment section of the video once it gets produced. uh, who do you want as the next speaker? We are always looking for recommendation from the audience side. Please let us know who do you want next in the show. We have great speaker lineup for you. You can also watch other episodes. They're already on the channel out there. But I'm telling you, we have fantastic and great speakers lined up there. So lined up for you. So please let us know whom do you want to see on Cracking the Code, and we will try our best to get them for you. Number one. Number two, uh, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, like, share, comment, spread a word about it. I'm very sure you are enjoying the content you're watching. So please go and spread a word about it. Subscribe to the channel. 80% of the people are not. I'm already in word in talks with Kunal Shah, Ankush. I'm sure he will soon be on the show. But so yeah, so exactly these are the recommendations I'm looking for. So yeah, so spread a word about it. And I last but not the least, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I will see you next Thursday with another speaker on Cracking the Code. And meanwhile, thanks for staying tuned. Thanks for spending almost like 2 hours with us. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, comment. And I am Dilnawaz signing off on this episode of Cracking the Code. See you on next Thursday, 4 p.m. Thank you so much. Bye bye.